So tell me about, you live in the U.S., you recently had a baby. How is your time management going now that you've got these new pressures on the way that you can construct your life and your business?
Yeah, I can probably hear the baby. It's been a joy, right? And it's been a lot of work, as you know, as well. I'd say since I was home office and I do home office, and well, most people around, a lot of people are home office at this time, right? So the situation was that my productivity went down. I don't know, um, less than half, and
Oh man, that makes me feel so much better to hear you say that. Oh my God, you have no idea. Because I'm like losing my mind with
uh,
how
uh,
little productivity. I'm like, I won't succeed. I'm going to fail. Nobody told me how difficult this is going to be. So to hear you say that, not that I want you to suffer, but it
uh,
does make me feel better.
yes. How old is yours now?
Now it's 11 weeks.
Okay. Yeah. And it's so funny. The first few weeks, it's like, oh, this baby's so calm. And then things go south very quickly. Oh, man. From when it comes to managing it, it's just tough, as you know. And, but again, it comes back to prioritization. And boy, we're going to have the last 12 months for us being great. And it's been the best year yet. So you start thinking, well, you know, we need to I guess we need to continue just to prioritize and keep pushing.
Yeah, I have found that like we have finally figured out a schedule, and that
Mhm.
schedule, as long as baby goes along with it, really, really helps me. And it's a level of discipline that's hard for somebody because I kind of consider myself a creative. So I like having lots of time and be
Yeah,
creative. But that schedule has forced me into saying, like, now I've got to work on this challenge. Now I've got to do this one. And now this is time for baby. And one of the things that I did, because I run a network called the Articulate Ventures Network, and inside of there we have been doing a sober October, and one of
uh,
the things that I decided to do was to give up using my phone from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m.
I love it. Okay,
It was
six
such a
nine.
transformative experience for me because I did not realize that by dividing my time between whatever I was doing for the family, whether it's cooking or spending time with baby and the cell phone, neither one was getting more than 50%. There was some loss in the switching between the two. And I don't think I'll ever go back. I think I will always try and keep that 6 to 9 break because it's been so good for me and my family.
I love it. 6 to 9. So you do get after 9 a little bit.
Yeah, and then that, because 6 means, hey, I'm up there cooking and I'm participating in dinner and making all that happen. And then you put baby to bed. But if I get baby put to bed before 9, I say, okay, well, I should probably be cleaning up, or I could be reading, or I could be doing these other
Uh-huh.
things. And it really has been, like, the more discipline I put to it, the more value I draw out of it.
I love it. One that I've done that is working for me is I removed the email app from the phone.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, then because we are slaves of email, and email is nothing more than the most important task of someone else. It's like, oh man. So I'm checking email now once a day. Takes me about 2 hours. It's about 150 emails a day by the time you get all the newsletters and everything else. Um, and it's been good. I like it a lot.
Speaking of newsletters, I am religious about once a week. I go through anytime I get a newsletter that I didn't sign up for or something has subscribed to me that I
Yeah.
don't want.
Yep.
I go through and then unsubscribe on every single one of them. And it
Yep.
has saved me so much time and chaos in my inbox that by having that little bit of discipline, it takes maybe 10 minutes at the most to go through and unsubscribe. But it's kept, hundreds of thousands of emails out of my inbox.
Yes, I do the same. Yeah, I do the same. I do on the spot. Unsubscribe. There's some apps that you can do that help a little bit, but yeah, email is a big one, man.
Man, that's a good idea. I feel like email is the same temptation as Twitter, because I think that the reason that Twitter becomes so addictive is that you put something out into the world and you're like, oh, somebody responded to me. Ooh, that feels good. Like even if it's a negative response, you're still getting that like that brain, dose of dopamine or whatever that says, oh, somebody's paying attention to me. And email feels the same way, but you're right. Email is almost always the highest priority that somebody else has that's not necessarily anything to do with mine.
Yes. I read somewhere a few days ago something about that. Email is mail, not a chat service. So hey, once a day, and then on my signature now have like, hey, if it's urgent, text or call. It's never urgent. It's like once or twice a year you have something that's actually urgent. So it's like, man, we always get scared, I'm gonna miss something. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that was my big complaint when I was first putting the phone down. I'm like, what happens if somebody needs me between 6 and 9 p.m.? And I'm like, wait a second, really? There's only two people, my wife and my daughter, that really, really need me between those two times. And they're right here. So it's all solved. But we do have that, like, it's almost an ego thing of like, well, I need to be available when, at least for me, I don't. I'm not that important.
Right. I think a lot of folks, and then you start talking about if you work for a large company, that's tough, because then now you need to be competing, quote unquote, with the other folks that are available all the time, and that stuff. But when you start selling your own rules, it gets a little better. But also educating the folks around you that you talk the most on your ways of communicating. In my case, it's like, hey, with my team, it's like, hey, if it's urgent, call me. That's it.
Yeah, I mean that the idea of going from 6 to 9 came from a guy named Jared Holst, and I remember hearing that he just didn't take calls between that time, and me being like, wow, imagine being the type of person that doesn't take calls or doesn't, respond to anything from 6 to 9. And then one day it hit me. It was like, hey, you could do that. You just haven't chosen to do it. And it instantly was one of those things that I was like, this is one of the greatest things I've ever done for myself. And I really want to know, what are other things that you could do that would have that big of an impact? Because I know they're just sitting out there waiting for me to discover them.
Right. And that's funny enough. That's one area, this whole area about personal productivity. I love it, man. I'm so addicted to it. I have some future plans for it when it comes to create this little community just focused on this topic that we're talking about. I love that. And for me, I mean, you probably watched The Social Dilemma on Netflix.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Great. I recommend, right? We recommend that a lot to people, I think, and turning off the notifications. I did that a year or two ago now. Oh my gosh, I love that.
Thanks for checking out this podcast short. If you like this interview, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button and hit that bell so you always get notified about this podcast. And if you're really interested in conversations like this, you may want to consider joining the Articulate Ventures Network. To find out more, go to network.articulate.ventures.